Welcome to the Well Woman Show, where we interview women executives, leaders, and entrepreneurs.
And you're listening to the Well Woman Show,
where motivated women achieve fulfillment and well-being.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
Take time for myself by coming to things like Well Woman Drinks.
To be accepting of myself no matter what. Step away from judgment as much as possible.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
You're going to be in for a good ride. I don't regret anything. Everything I've ever done, I've learned from it, one way or another, good or bad.
Being a little bit selfish for yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first and then give what's left.
I'm a woman. I would prefer to tell my own story. My story, though it's very personal, is universal.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show. And now your host, Giovanna Rossi.
Hi, Giovanna Rossi here, and welcome to another episode of the Well Woman Show, where I interview women leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs about their lives and their road to becoming and being who they are today. Are you feeling burned out or finding it hard to focus on your goals? Or are you in transition? Well, you're not alone. We all need to activate our superpowers. These are the internal strengths and abilities we all already have but don't use all the time. Superpowers can be cultivated, and they include empathy, love, intuition, courage, and more. As always, this episode is brought to you by Well Woman Life, a global community of women living our best lives. Whether it's your health, relationships, your money, or making an impact in your community and the world, Well Woman Life has you covered. You've made a commitment to not settle, to use your voice, and to live your best life. Well Woman Life offers annual memberships, workshops, and retreats to support you. Check out wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join our growing community. Now back to the show. I'm here with Mary Agnes this morning. Welcome to the program, Mary Agnes.
Thank you. I'm so excited that we're doing this. We've been talking about it a long time.
I know. I'm super excited. So I want everybody to know what a badass you are. And so if they don't already know, I am going to read a couple of things about you. So, Mary Agnes,
much it embarrasses me.
Yes, no, we have to toot your horn here. Mary Agnes is a copywriter and a social strategist. She is a keynote speaker, widely sought after across the country and maybe even internationally at this point. And her client list includes people like Jordan Belfort and Jack Canfield and Evolution of Medicine and just a whole huge list of amazing businesses and entrepreneurs. So with that, I want to welcome you to the Well Woman Show.
I think people know who Jordan Belfort is. Sometimes the reputable peeps don't.
Right.
He's for anybody who doesn't know, he's the Wall Street. Literally, he's the person that they wrote the book. Well, he wrote the book and that they made the movie about, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. And yeah, we've been lucky. We've gotten to work with some amazing people.
Yeah. So I want to talk. So we've heard, sort of your fancy bio, but what I really want to hear from you about, Mary Agnes, is who you are. So can we start there and just kind of describe who are you in the world today?
That's an interesting question, right? Don't you love somebody who asks you that? So I'll be transparent. So I was a secretary for 21 years. And it was this really humble position. And I was in service to others and super happy. And I was good at it. I have a knack for an intuition for what people need. And sometimes before they do, which is really good. And I trust that intuition. So almost always you're in service to somebody, and that makes me super happy. So that's really important. But I'm also really smart. And so over time, a secretarial role is a servient role, which is fine. I always ended up working at really high levels in companies. And I'm a very good writer. So I would end up doing things like their newsletters and vendor negotiations because I'm sweet, but I'm smart. So, all of those things. And one day I worked for a private equity firm, and I was the office manager by then, and I handled vendor negotiations. It was very elevated, but I still, did all the things secretaries do. And this thing started to happen where the woman that I reported to hated me. We always have a hater, right? It's just like an exercise in life. And the very high partner who really was very fond of me said, I shouldn't say this, but you could do something else for a living. You're very smart. And I really had never in my life had anyone confident in me. I wasn't raised by parents who said, you can do anything. And when I wanted to go to college, they very happily said, well, we'll send you to secretarial school so you have a career if your husband ever leaves you.
Wow.
I was 18. I didn't get married until I was 30. And by the way, the now ex-husband works for the company I started. So it didn't take much. It doesn't take much, right? We're all like flowers waiting to be watered. And when I very soon after that conversation decided to leave that daily abuse from this woman I reported to who hated me, I walked away. I just, they gave me a settlement. She was so awful. And I left and I used the $11,000 they gave me, a meager settlement. And I started my own company and I was ghost blogging. So for anybody out there who's in your amazing, I can say our because I joined, your amazing community, I thought I would be a transcriptionist from home because I typed fast. And I was a fast typer. I was a secretary. So I went and I joined the International Virtual Assistants Association. All I wanted to do was work from my home to be closer to my kid. And the short story is they had a seminar on how to start a business for $100. And it was all these free tools online, like your free email system, your free lead page, your free. And one of those many classes at this online summit was transcriptionist. And I was so bored, I couldn't even stay in there an hour. I thought I would commit suicide to get out of there. It was so awful. And, but in some of the other classes, the marketing classes, I was really intrigued. And as I went in and got all those free things and took all their, what's it called when they have a training in there that you can take? All their free trainings that I can't think of the name of. I took all of them and I was really good. I would go deeper and deeper. And most people do not do those trainings. They go into an email system, they try and figure it out, but they're missing the many layers of opportunities that systems have built in them. And then I went out and learned more systems and more systems. And I was ghost blogging because I'm a good writer. And very quickly, ghost blogging turned into a marketing company. And it's now 11 years later, it's $500,000 in revenue, 5 employees, some amazing advisors like Book in a Box. And just these really powerful, Tucker Max, Book in a Box is our advisor. And I don't even know Michael Wentz, Isabella Wentz's husband, their New York Times #1 bestseller. So this core group of clients and advisors, and our goal for 2018 is $1 million so that the core 6 employees can each make $100,000 a piece. Because I just showed Giovanna, I live in a house the size of a school box, and I only buy shoes if my shoes wear out. I am extremely non-materialistic, but I know that money is a game changer. Like, one thing is I never worry about what I spend at the grocery store anymore. I just buy what I want. I buy healthy, expensive food, and we eat it and enjoy it. It's food. It's not a luxury. But I spent, like most women, my whole life worried about, I can remember taking things off the belt that I couldn't afford. So, that's not where we are anymore. My kid is very likely to go to college next year with no debt. And I think that these are amazing accomplishments for somebody who was a secretary most of her life, who was raised by parents who loved but diminished her based on their culture and upbringing. And then I married somebody who loved but diminished me. So finding people like Giovanna is a huge part of my inner circle who believe in me. It's been a real journey. So that's my whole story almost, except I work too many hours. So if you're gonna go for what we went for, you've got to know you're in the grind, and you have to find a way to pace yourself to 60 or 70 hours a week and get the support you need. People talk to me about self-care, and what I finally figured out was I needed to hire people to do it for me. So that's what we did. I was missing 2 Christmas gifts. I have the party tonight with bring gifts for Toys for Tots. And my assistant went to Kohl's and got 2 dolls. Like you have to get the care from somewhere if you're going to grind at that level. And that's what I believe it takes to be this kind of success.
Yeah. So there's so much in what you just said that I want to dig into. But first of all, I want to say I am so thrilled that you're part of the Well Woman Life community. And thank you for mentioning that, because
we're going for the next level. We joined at the smallest level to make the statement that we're part of this community. But our December budget is to join at the next level so that we can teach your community some of the marketing things we know, some of the tricks about up-leveling their brand. So we can do some of that in our call right now, and we can, That's awesome. In order to speak to someone's community, you should be invested. I really believe that. So we're going to come in at the $1,500 level or whatever it is, and hopefully support you guys.
Yay, that's so wonderful. And, Mary Agnes, you made such an impact on the women at the Superpower Retreat. Really? In the fall of this fall.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was, you expect to impact a few people, but it wasn't me. It was what I taught, really. But that we had a great experience with, there's a doubter in the crowd. Like, why am I doing this marketing? Why am I even in this part of the conference? And when she walked in the middle, she really started to understand how marketing isn't about selling yourself. It's about sharing your mission.
Yeah. That was so powerful for her, for that particular person that you're talking about, but for everybody. And I just want to call out here because I think you have something very special that not a lot of marketers have, which is you have a really amazing ability to sort of embody other people's messages and then tell a story better than they could have told it. And, I know when you and I have talked about Well Woman Life and about marketing strategies and stuff, I'm like writing as fast as I can to get down all of like every single word that comes out of your mouth, because you have this amazing way of, and you said in your introduction that you empathize with people, and you can, you have that compassion, and you can sort of solve people's problems before they even know, what it is themselves.
It's a puzzle, and you can see it. You can look at their website and their social media, and you can discern from that what their puzzle pieces are and who their audience is. And if you do it for a living for 11 or 12 years, you get good at it. But the other piece is your voice. Like, if I didn't understand Giovanna's voice, your voice, your vocal inflections, where you pause, where you stress, say so much about what's important to you as a businesswoman. So if we didn't get that high service is amazingly important to you, I believe that if you had an endless source of revenue, you would have Well Woman open to everybody at no cost. And then you fight with yourself, because if people don't make an investment, they're not going to take it seriously. So there's a layer of, and I'm not employed by Giovanna, so I just want to say, but as part of her advisory team, there's a layer of entry that's really inexpensive, because her having the people just starting out on their journey in our circles amazingly important. So and I got that from a phone call, the first phone call. And you didn't say any of that. Right. But your tonality around what you want your company to represent was really, anyway.
Yeah. And that's where you suggested out of the blue that you could come to the retreat and be a speaker. Yeah. And I was just floored. And I said, oh my gosh, let's make that happen. And so, you came to the retreat and you spoke at the podium. You shared so deeply about yourself, and you gave real-time examples for people in the audience of how they could use your method and your framework to really open up a new door for themselves in terms of marketing, so that they don't feel like they're selling and trying to make a hard sell, but rather they're sharing their gifts with the world. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's an ironic thing, because you think of marketing as sales, but it really isn't at all. It's really, in this brave new world of the digital age, it's really about connection. And that also doesn't mean that you're endlessly on Facebook serving your audience without compensation. That's not it. So the first thing is to know that when somebody is searching for help or a leader or a system or an expertise, basically your mission and gifts, they're not searching on Facebook. In fact, Facebook doesn't really have a mechanism in place to do that. So while Facebook does have a search function and an algorithm, if we were to ask 100 people, where do you search for something online, 100 people would say Google. So when Google bought YouTube about 3 or 4 years ago, as an agency, as a marketing director for probably a dozen companies at that time, we really stood back and looked at where their ad dollars were going. So owning a marketing agency, one thing that happens is they'll hire us, then they'll employ me. So right now I'm marketing director for Dr. Tom O'Brien, Dr. Partha Nandi in just a few days. I'm copywriter for Ben Lynch. So where their money goes, like they have 100,000 followers on Facebook, and still the place we put our energy and our money is YouTube, because Google owns YouTube. And so I've always had a knack for marketing, even as a kid. Some people, remember those tape recorders where you push down 2 buttons to record? So when that became a big deal in like 1980, and everyone was getting those cassette tape recorders, they would record music or maybe TV shows. I would record commercials. And so listening to people's tonality became really important. And Jordan Belfort, The Wolf of Wall Street, taught me some amazing things about tonality, when to lean in, when to lean out. And that means more than physical leaning, right? And in service to them. And one thing about video is that it builds trust really, really fast. Seconds only, and a close second to face-to-face. So the difference is in face-to-face, you bounce the ball back and forth in conversation. In video, you control it 100%. So to some degree, it's even more important. And that your videos, YouTube is algorithm heavy toward the title. So if somebody searches something on Google, your YouTube videos will come up based on the algorithm for search, because YouTube is owned by Google. So having those videos come up. So if I search, powerful women's group, great leader, if that's in the titles of your video, Giovanna, you'll come up. So Giovanna is not necessarily easy to spell, like Mary Agnes, not easy to spell unless you're Irish Catholic.
Right.
A lot of people spell it Maryanus. Thank you, universe. So I have to be spot on around, knowing what people are searching for, but have your name in it anyway, because as you, Giovanna, as me, Mary Agnes, and as your audience learns to elevate themselves online, people do start to remember how to spell your name. And when they start searching you, I want your videos to come up. The number one way to get chosen as a speaker is that they see you on camera. So this is important for so many reasons. It responds to a Google search. It elevates your brand. It absolutely positions you as an expert in your field, inside of your mission. And it's easily absorbed, super easily absorbed. It's like a 1-minute video gives so much information. I mean, if we were to time it. So can we do an example?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I want to set a timer. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Set a timer for 1 minute. Now I'm going to pause it and start. So what I want to say first is that what we're going to show is a formula for what your videos should do. You don't start with your credentials. We're going to start with their pain, then the only credential anyone cares about, how many people have you helped over their issue. Give them a tip, and then give them a call to action. So I'm going to do it for Well Woman, Giovanna.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
Okay. Now in our world, we call you Giovanna Presley, but is that what you go by?
Giovanna Rossi Presley.
Giovanna Rossi. Okay, I got it. All right, everybody ready? So you know how you've been looking for a community, especially a community of women who would elevate you, where there are no haters, where there's only faith, support, and learning. There's a whole world of training going on, and you're signing up for classes that you don't take or paying for things that you don't do. Well, I'm Giovanna Rossi Presley, and I've helped 15,000 women over that exact hurdle, and I've helped them one-on-one in a group that I run called the Well Woman and in one-on-one coaching and small circles of coaching. You can come into my community, the Well Woman, at any point in that circle. You can come in at the most intimate where we work together, second intimate where you're in a circle of other support, or you just want to be in the community, and that is under $200. You're in for the whole year. We have one huge event, several small events. You are welcomed with so much love by the highest level of women. Click below to learn more about my community. There it is, 1 minute.
Oh, wow.
So we talked about their pain, who you are, how many people you've helped. What is it? We've answered their pain by explaining the community levels and that they can afford it. We actually addressed an objection there and the call to action, click below to learn more. That's it. So in 1 minute, you can do that. Then when they click, you lead them to a page with a video that talks about what they're looking for. So if they click and they go to Well Woman, I want them to land on a page where there's a video of you that says, welcome. I'm so grateful you've landed here. This is where you're going to learn more about our community. And then for like 2 to 5 minutes, you talk about the benefits of being in the community only, and you answer objections. If you think you can't attend our live events because they're in, Santa Fe, we move these all over the country. We do a different event in a different city, 4 times a year, different cities. And if you can't get there, you're not prioritizing yourself properly. That's all I'm going to say. Get to 2 of them. Prioritize your development. Being in a circle online is great. Being in a circle where you can hold hands with somebody, a whole different thing. If you're not close enough for me to hug you, you're not close enough. And then, so benefits, objections. And if you don't know what their objections are, you can ask.
So that is a really awesome example of how you use your formula. And I've learned this formula from you, and that was beautifully done. Thank you. I'm going to use that.
Almost exactly 1 minute, right?
Yeah, that was great. It just goes to show how much information you can get into 1 minute. And I want to point out too, it's a super simple formula. It's 4 things to cover in 1 minute. And you can literally, like Mary Agnes did, hold your phone and do a little selfie video. I don't want you to all get super, no. This way, not this way, this way.
So what I do is you're on my laptop. I'll move you around. You're on my laptop. What I do is take the phone and put it in the crook of the laptop, so I can see it, right?
Yeah.
And then I switch cameras so it's the back.
Right.
Because the back camera to a smartphone is usually the high def camera.
Yeah.
You want the high def side, which is really important. And
so like this.
It's sideways, not up and down, or you get those black stripes on the side. Make sure there's no ambient noise and make sure the light is on your face. Those are the only tips.
It's so super simple. And I also just want to say that this completely dispels the myth that you have to, have this highly produced video and you're going to need all this equipment and lighting and professional staff and all this stuff. Actually, what it does is it helps you create a more natural, authentic, quick video because you're not going to be editing it necessarily. You're just going straight. Yeah.
And if you're struggling and you have to do it 20 times, who cares? 20 times a minute is 20 minutes. You were worth it. You were worth the 20 minutes. So I love this. We do this with all of our we do this with $1 million clients. This is what we have everybody do because of the authenticity. Exactly what you said.
Now, how important is it for the principal person in the company to actually do their own videos as opposed to having the team, do that? I mean, how important is that for developing the brand?
Because of brand elevation and intimacy. Sorry, I have a tickle all week. You want to elevate yourself as leader. So you could have your team do it, but know that the way intimacy and the brain works, who's ever on camera is their leader. You don't want to hand that gift away to anybody. That's an important gift for you to keep. There are gifts to re-gift, but this is not one of them. So, but if you're in a company, go for it. Offer to be that person. If nobody's using that gift, take it. It's good for them, but it's better for you. And here's why, the short lesson. Anybody who's old enough to remember when Princess Diana passed away, like I grieved like I lost a friend closer than a friend. I grieved like I lost a family member. And still, I see her boys and I hurt that she's not here. And I might even give her more thought than the relatives I've lost. She had a huge impact on me for many, many reasons that I won't go into. But I never met the princess once. She didn't know that Mary Agnes over here existed. It's the TV. It was the camera, your brain. And I started to wonder about that when she died. I didn't know her. Why? And it's because your brain does not know someone's not in front of you. Your reasoning does. But your brain is a very simple device. It is here to protect us and to connect us. That's it. Protect and connect. So it, at the blink of an eye, discerns if somebody is safe, good, and mine. That's it. Protect and connect. So that connection that I made to her was deeply personal. And anybody on camera, it's why you think you know the newscaster you watch. I don't know Hoda Kotb, but when you run into the street, you're like, Hoda! And Hoda's like, you! It's whomever it is, this is the process of intimacy and who we see every day. Our brain starts to take them in as our family. And that's exactly as life is supposed to be. We're not supposed to be watching life happen through a box or on our phone. Our brain doesn't know what that is.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean we don't use it to our advantage. It just means use it to your advantage. Get out there in front of your community. If they're taking you in as their Hoda Kotb, be her. I am a very reluctant leader. I am an extremely humble woman. I know my worth now, finally. But I'm still really humble. I still have this very firm belief that I'm 51. I might be here for 3 more decades, and then I don't know what happens. My ability to create useful impact on this world is short-lived. Maybe it's another day, or maybe it's 30 years, but it won't be longer. We expire. So I'm really, really humble about things. But I'll say this. When I started to have followers, I was extremely uncomfortable. People who would ask me for input. And I shared with a friend, a true friend, because that feels grandiose to even share. So I couldn't explain the problem to anybody. I just started hiding. And this friend called me out on a camper bull. And I said, I don't even know what to do with this. And he said, hey, Mary Agnes, when people start following, you better start leading, or you have failed them. Mm. They will wait and patiently go to the next a-hole who knows half of what you know, who only wants their money, who doesn't care about them. When people start following, you better start leading. It's a privilege, Mary. And so it changed my life. Camper Bull, when he shared that, changed my life. And the one other person I would say, JJ Virgin, a phenomenal leader, a huge support for women. She many, many times is like, a rising tide lifts all boats. Be the rising tide. If you can elevate yourself, you will take people with you. And that became my reason for my number around what I wanted our financial success to look like, because I hate money and I push it away. But once I could hear JJ after dozens of times saying it, if you can elevate yourself, you will take people with you. So that's, I just have a sense that there are a lot of people like me in your community who are still finding it, their value and their value statement,
Yeah, I love that for sure. And I think also you hit the nail on the head, and you've said this a couple of times, but, there are so many people out there sharing information, and they're doing it because they're marketers. They know how to share information, but they're not necessarily...
We're so hungry, we take it.
Yeah, and they're not necessarily experts in anything except for marketing.
Especially in the healthcare world.
Right.
Human beings with zero credentials are explaining especially things like supplements. And I'm grateful I have a wealth of people who are maybe not credentialed, but are really learned. A wealth of people who have an MD after their name. So if I get a Dr. Parthanandi, MD, come on, we need to figure out how credentialed people lead with the savvy of marketing agents. because they have more, they just have more to offer, you know?
And that's what you're doing, actually. That is what you are helping people figure out, is you're helping these experts, you know, really distill down their message and their information and be able to share it. Mary Agnes,
and with great humility, because I have 0 credentials, barely finished high school. I just couldn't focus properly. We're super smart, I mean, really smart, off the charts, but like, you know, I'm more into being useful than noticed. So like the thing about applied, like sometimes I say to people, the only letters after my name are GSD, I get shit done.
I love that.
Yeah. So, however, if somebody has put in the tenacity, the time, and the money to earn some sort of wisdom that others might want, then let's talk about the letters after their name that they sorely and bravely earned. It doesn't mean the rest of us don't have a place in the world. We do. It just means, I don't know, there's a time and a place where an MD after your name matters to me.
Yeah. Mary Agnes, I want to go and move us into the segment called Superpowers for Success.
Sure.
And I want to ask you a few questions here.
Sure. What that means.
The first one is, what does success in life mean for you?
Oh, I have something to share that won't even make sense, though. But here's my answer. And this is from Andrea Giglein, Goeglein, if anybody wants to follow her, known as the Success Doctor, or Dr. Success. Andrea Giglein said to me early in my relationship with her that for success to be meaningful, it must be self-defined. Mm-hmm. Success defined by anyone else is not meaningful on the most intimate level to us. So, yeah, it wasn't money, and it wasn't, I don't know, I think, I think I'm still figuring that out, Giovanna. Success for me as a business owner would be getting that core team of 6 employees over 6 figures year after year.
And what about success for you, Mary Agnes, as a woman, not just your business owner hat?
You know, you invited me to go to a few things like your Christmas party tonight, and your you've got a writers thing coming up. Being able to take the time to do those things, it's not the revenue any longer, it's time decisions. I work 70 hours a week, and being able to take 3 days off is catastrophic and monumental. So having that freedom, a team that can take over for a few days, or a team of clients who understood when I would be off grid. You know, this is hard to navigate. I own an agency, so it's every single day we're on systems marketing and things don't wait for me. So I don't, that would be a higher level of success for sure.
Okay. And Mary Agnes, and you talked a little bit about this, but I want you to kind of maybe tell a story about, when did you know you were really good at what you do? Like, when did that happen for you, where you just were like, oh my gosh, I rock?
I'm embarrassed to say I was really young. I was 14. I'm a good writer. I've got a knack for writing in other people's voice. And around 14, I wrote something in a journal that was a play on words. And it struck me as really creative. And so I started writing, and I haven't stopped yet. I'm 51. And yeah, it's like most writers, if my pen dries up, so does my soul. Like, I have to write to be okay in the world. I don't write my own shit. It puts me under the table in depression. It just, you know, like a lot of people, like a lot of writers, life isn't easy. And to go back there and write about that is really hard. But I write for other people. So I'm in my craft every day, solving their problems, and I'm uniquely gifted at it. And I will offer that as you start to be offered more and more money for what you do, it is, I hate it, but it is sort of an ego hit. And you start to know that you're valuable to others. And, you know, to be paid $12,000 by Mark Hyman to write the copy for Broken Brain. And then when Broken Brain comes out, in the credits, it says copywriter Mary Agnes Antonopoulos, and they didn't spell it A-N-U-S. You know, like, that was enormously, I felt deeply grateful and humbled to be recognized by that team and that man. So things like that, that's the moment that you know you're playing a bigger game.
I love your initial answer too, because a lot of people, when I ask this question, go directly to an example of when they were validated externally, from somebody else. And your first answer was really, it came from you, where you just knew.
Yeah, if I waited for others, I didn't hear the words, "I'm proud of you," until I was 10 days sober from another woman in an AA meeting sitting next to me. So I was 25 years old. "I'm really proud of you, Mary Agnes." That was the first time I had ever heard those words. And my business partner, Lee Soltz, has said a few times, "I'm really proud of you." And every time he says it, I feel like breathtaking, and I don't even know how to answer. It's the kindest thing anyone can say. So if I was waiting for outside validation,
But here's the thing, and this is, I think, the critical piece, is you heard that when you were 14 and you listened. That's the key part, because we often get these messages, or we feel this, internal surge of knowing, but we don't listen to it. And if we don't listen to it, we can't act on it.
Yeah, there are a million messages I don't listen to, like, "Wow, I look really good today." And the rest of me says, "Really? Really? 100 pounds from now, maybe?" Or, "Look at your gray stripe in your hair," or whatever, you can, but I never really have that about writing. I always seem to, in fact, what I tell myself if I can't finish a project is, it's going to be the first project you couldn't write. Come on, you got this. So that one, thank God, thank God for one place I could land in life. But
that's so interesting. I think a lot of us have that. A lot of us have that one thing that we can rely on, and it just carries us through, and then we can sometimes hide in that place too, which is not good.
Yeah.
Right.
I went to pocketbook bingo with my sister last week, and I sat there thinking, really? Pocketbooks? I didn't understand it. And then bingo? This is so boring. And who are all these women? Don't they work? Well, of course they work. We all work. But they were there to enjoy friends and camaraderie and get a pocketbook. And I'm like, I don't understand this.
Does not compute.
Does not compute, yes. So I'm just like, all right, I gotta get in touch with the real world again,
Yeah. Well, so I might have a guess as to your answer to this question, but I want to ask you, what superpower did you discover you had only to realize it was there all the time?
I'm a really good friend. I take love and service extremely seriously. It gets harder to do as I become more successful. Fitting even this interview in, we canceled and moved it 3 times. Giovanna, thank goodness, is very patient. But, I'm at a point where we have to put a layer of protection between me and the world around responses. And it's important to me to stay in service and to be a good friend to the universe at large. So I think that's the superpower. But I think with that has to be a karmic reciprocity. I have to let people give back. And that's like the superpower and what would you call it? The super weakness.
Right.
So I think that's the karmic reciprocity, is we can be good to the world, but if we don't let it be good to us, if we make money but only give it away, if we, all of that, it's a breathe in and breathe out. So that's so good. Grateful to discover it, and I really think the turning point was at the event with you. I just want to say that.
Oh my
God! Not just saying that. It sort of happened there. There's a lot of love here for me too, and I don't just have to be in service. So I started really, really, really thinking about why I won't take in the love. So, and then I joined community.
So good. I love that. Mary Agnes, what do you do when you have a setback, when you kind of get knocked down and you have to get back up? And I know that you've been through ups and downs and all kinds of things. What do you, what's in your toolbox? How do you handle that?
Well, the first thing I do is just grind harder. I work. I am not a girl who indulges herself emotionally. I'm not 17. I don't have another income source. I don't have a partner. I don't even have room for those things. So when things go wrong, I just try and work my way through it. But I will say that if it continues to go wrong, if things go really wrong, I'm sorry, I'm blushing a little. It doesn't break until I tell someone. It doesn't stop until I break its hold over me and say to someone, I think I'm really in trouble here. I could give an example if it would be all right.
Yeah.
So we are very careful not to grow too fast. We took on a project that has gone wrong because we didn't keep control of the assets. And so as assets continued to come in, even as the event went live, we're still managing assets. I'm still in it. We're still managing assets and can't get into the selling modality. So we had to change the event from A to B to evergreen so we could hit our marks. All of this mishigash around this has derailed my agency. There are 2 projects I've been paid to do that haven't been touched. I got sick from doing it. And the people that are involved are not gracious enough and not grateful at all. And they don't recognize that this had nothing to do with my agency. It was a crap show from them. So I had to stop saying, it's my fault, let me help, because I could see where we could have done something differently. So this has gone on and on and on, and it started to really slay me. And other projects started to not get enough attention. At the end of the day, I started to hit failure every single minute of every day. And I just kept working harder because that's what I do. But it will derail you. What you don't say will just say it to you all day long. And I finally stopped and unable to say to any human being that I think I'm going to fail. Because if I don't get my work right, I don't invoice my clients. I have a high integrity around money. So I hit the second month of invoicing no clients. We were paid for this as a project. It wasn't retained.
Right.
So I started to not be able to make payroll. Okay, now that's when you know your company's really in trouble. And I stepped back and looked at it and called someone and said, and actually said it to God even before that, am I meant to fail here, Lord? Because I would only do it this way. Their project is right now. But what had to happen is, yes, you might fail. You might fail. And this is exactly what failure looks like as a solopreneur. You will have money for projects you can't deliver. You won't be able to make payroll. You'll be stuck in something that wasn't what you thought it was, unable to set the right boundaries. And this is exactly how a company like mine will fail. So what do? Well, first of all, stop people pleasing, set some boundaries, get really honest with the other clients. Like, I can give back your money. I can't give it back today, but I will give it back in very short term. Or I could just hit restart and we'll get your work started in January after the holidays. You tell me what works for you. And I'm sorry. I took on something that became an octopus, suffocating me and sucking the lifeblood out of me. And I didn't know how to control it. So that's what'll happen to me is I'll fall into something like failure. And failure as a solopreneur will start to kill you with your family, your friendships, you'll just start failing all over the place. And those plates on sticks that are spinning start crashing all around you. And, the other thing is I had to remember I am not alone. I actually pay people to help me. So I needed to start saying, please help. I needed to start delegating differently and talking to them differently and show up differently. Being a leader, showing up vulnerable and broken, I tell my advisors, like, when that rhetoric around failure starts to happen in my head, I need to start telling people because it'll take me down a really dark road. I wasn't raised to believe you can do anything you want. So every day I show up to do this, I'm overcoming self-loathing to a magnificent degree. I have to fall in love with this woman every single day.
It's an ongoing, it's an ongoing journey.
self-hatred was factory installed in my generation, I think. I don't think, we hear about people, I think we've raised our children to love themselves, but and I don't know if it was my parents' fault. I just want to say my parents were awesome people. They were amazing. They were larger than life. But, we were Brooklyn Irish Catholic, born in the 60s, and, we were not raised to, the first time I was on stage, I like to put an Irish accent on the story. The first time I was on stage and I came home and like, oh my God, it was so exciting. And, one of them said, so you think you're a big deal now, huh? You want to get down here with the rest of us?
Oh, wow. That's so British. Sorry. Sorry to all my British, yeah.
You think you're a big deal now. You want to get down here with the rest of us because we're not impressed. You're still wiping your ass. We're not too impressed with you. Do you want to get the mop and do the floor now, please? What I'm like, what?
Yeah. Can I just celebrate for 5 minutes?
Right. 5. Because I'm going to take myself off that pedestal real fast.
Quickly enough. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So it's important to be in our community. That's why I joined. I sound like I'm an advertiser for you, but I'm not even Giovanna's marketing person. I just like her community and wanted to be part of it. So that's my touchstone now. I want a group of women where there's no haters, who elevate each other and say, you were on stage. Oh my God, how did it go?
Yeah. Exactly. And a big part of the foundation of our community is to not judge each other and also to not judge ourselves, which is really hard, right? That's a really hard one. But also
that's why I joined this.
To not judge each other is such a relief, to be around other women who aren't judging you the whole time. And
I felt beautiful in that room, even though I'm like the cutest size 20 in the room. Like I felt like I belonged there and I didn't do what I do to myself. So it was a magical turning point for me. I'm very grateful.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to use that as a testimonial for the retreat next year.
It was a magical turning point for me.
That's
great.
And
so I came home and I invested to be part of it. I was just a speaker at the event. I really didn't know what it was.
Yeah. Well, I have a couple of other questions for you before we wrap up, Mary Agnes. And one of them is, what advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
You're doing great. Don't give up on you. Stay sober, which she did. 25 years. In 3 weeks, I have 25 years of sobriety. So stay the course, and before you pick up a drink, a drug, a man, money, whatever your addiction might be, stand in the ladies' room, bang your head against the wall and beg for help, because it's there. Even if it's intangible, it's there for you. The world, the universe, God does not want you to fail you. It'll buoy you forward. It'll float you forward if you can't move at all. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And Mary Agnes, in the Well Woman community, we often talk about working for social, economic, and political equality for all people. And a lot of the Well Woman Life community members are, in fact, doing that in their own way, in whatever way they are. And that's also a definition of feminism. And I wanted to ask you, as I ask all my guests, do you identify as a feminist?
I think I don't. I hate to say that. But only because I identify as a humanist. I don't think we should exclude half. I know this is not going to be popular with our community, but we don't judge each other. So my truth is that we need to forgive our men. I am deeply grounded in 12-step forgiveness, and to be a feminist is to exclude the loss of the identity of men. They are utterly lost right now. We are finding our way and our place, and we are not letting things happen that are no longer acceptable. It starts in the United States and the educated Western world, and it spreads all over the globe, as it should. But our men are completely lost. They don't know who they should be. And they strike out in ways that are utterly baffling to me. to kiss somebody without their consent. What kind of a kiss is that? And worse, to the nth degree. But I, early in my life, I went to a Marianne Williamson Course in Miracles event, and I didn't understand forgiveness then the way I do now. But Marianne Williamson shared a story about a woman who was murdered, and she said, if you don't think that's forgivable, the most powerful thing you could hear is when her boyfriend talked about forgiveness. And, we see that. We see the examples over and over in our society as a human race around the power of forgiveness. And so I'm in love for all of humanity. I don't identify personally as a feminist or a Republican or even an American. All of those things are deeply meaningful. I just think that any boundary we embrace leaves everybody else out. Mm. That's why I want us to be as elevated as we are, but I find that to be a term that divides people. That's why. So I hope everybody will still love me. It's not that I don't believe the elevation of women. 100% we are the elevation. We need to take the rest of them with us.
Yeah. It's so interesting that the terminology is so difficult for a lot of people. And I just want to reiterate that the definition of feminism is to work towards social, economic, and political equality for everyone. And that would include men and women. So it by definition, it's not leaving anyone behind. But I know exactly, I totally hear what you're saying, which is that in effect that has happened, and men are completely lost. They're having an identity crisis of their own, and they're having a masculinity breakdown. And I don't think it's women's job to fix it. I think men are and should take a stand on that too. Everybody can't fix everything, but it's definitely a problem.
We don't agree on that. But that's okay. You're somebody I see as a leader, and I'm very open to your opinion. Once in my marriage when it was dissolving, and he was very ill, he had stage 4 cancer, which he survived, I shared with Jordan Belfort's girlfriend, Danny, that I couldn't leave him. He was ill, even though he was abusive, and I needed to stay. He needed to become complete with my daughter. I needed them to become complete before I left him or he left the universe, he left this life. And she said, but Mary Agnes, that's not your job. And it never will be your job, nor can you do that job. I'm just going to tell you. And Annie really changed the course of my life. I left him soon after because somebody had to love me, even if it's only me. Somebody had to take care of me and nobody else was doing it. But so I'm going to think about what you said. Maybe it's not our job as women to elevate them. At 51, I'm sort of bridged 2 generations, right? And the generation where we served men until we dropped dead doing it.
Right. And it's not to say that we can't be compassionate partners in the work. I mean, it takes all of us to do this. I just don't think, just like with racism, we can't rely on people of color to fix racism. We can't, if you apply that in the other context, we need men to stand up for them, for themselves, and women to stand up for themselves. And
they elevated themselves at our expense for decades, centuries. If we elevate ourselves at their expense, we will only continue the problem or reverse the problem. I think there's a mutual elevation that should and can happen. So, but I will share that I have a company that slowly but surely has moved to a woman-owned, run, and fully employed company. Awesome. And we are moving toward only taking female clients.
Oh, wow.
So it's an irony that I really, yeah. But I just see this as such a big problem that I love and honor the men in this world and want them to heal as much as we need to heal, but I'm that person who, when somebody's hit by a drunk driver and dies, I grieve for the guy who drove the car.
Yeah.
My daughter's like, your compassion is your greatest flaw, you know.
Well, it's your greatest strength and your greatest flaw. Usually that's the case with those things, isn't it? But
an asset run amok.
Well, I just want to end on the note of, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. So like if I win, you have to lose. That's not what we're talking about. It's when women do well, men do well. And actually we have research that shows that. So it's not like I want to do well, therefore you have to, suck.
This is also the reason I joined our community, because we have these conversations and I'm able to share what I believe is not as popular an opinion and risk what happens. But the only thing that happens in our community is an amazing conversation that always leaves me challenged to look at who I'm being in the world outwardly and inwardly.
Yeah.
Because inwardly, this love and service and forgiveness of men left me in a marriage that was spousally abusive for at least the last 3 years I was in it, and maybe always, So don't post this on social media. I wouldn't want to bash him, but, I needed to leave that relationship a long time before I did. I stayed in love and service. And so an asset run amok, it almost killed me,
We are still recording. I just want to warn you. But we can...
it's all right. That's okay for everybody. I just want to say, I'm grateful for a community that makes me look at things, how am I living and how's that working for you kind of thing, Mary Agnes. So I have to think about what you said, maybe just being a feminist just means I see us as the elevation, When we rise, everyone rises. The Dalai Lama said that. He said Western woman would save the world. And he said it like 8 years ago. And I swear the minute he said it, we went into 7 years of painful purification to deserve that. And at the end of it, we as a society get this huge representation for what we don't want in leadership and what we will not accept any longer. The great motivator, everything we've been all along now sits at the pinnacle of our political system, reminding us to never, ever stop, that we can never let that happen again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We can never let an abusive man stand for us again. Never.
On that note, I want to ask you the final question, which is, what are you reading right now? What's on your nightstand?
Oh goodness. It's not here in front of me. I'm slowly reading the Hashimoto's Protocol by Isabella Wentz, a beloved client, because thyroid issues are the undermining issue for so many of us around fatigue, weight. So many things come down to our thyroid. So Hashimoto's Protocol is a huge one. I'm always reading health books because I'm in that industry and the most unhealthy cat in the room. I'm reading a book about transgender called Some Assembly Required, because I keep calling her my daughter, but my daughter's now a boy and I have to figure that out. And I have to love and accept this child. So that I'm reading that also, Some Assembly Required, for anybody with a transgender family member. And I also printed out our workbook from the event, and I'm slowly going through that and reading it and working with it. And that's been a really good thing to do at night before I go to sleep. And then I've actually gone as far as to record it into Voxer and then play it back as I go to sleep so I can carry some of it forward and think about the questions it asks.
Oh, I love that.
I don't know if anybody else in our group is doing that, but...
Oh, that's great. That's a great tip. In fact, you should go into the Well Woman community group on Facebook and tell people that you're doing that and see.
Oh, yeah, it's been cool. Because some of the questions I didn't really know the answers to. And so I just read the question over and over and over into Voxer and then hit play as I went to sleep and really listened to it and really thought about it. Oh, can I share? I just want to say that I found this amazing app called Simple Habits.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a 5-minute meditations, super easy. I went for the paid version so I can search for the people I like. But like this one's called Peaceful Evening, Break from Stressful Days, Morning Meditation, 5 minutes. And they're so good. It's amazing. So it's called Simple Habit.
Okay. We're going to definitely link to that in the show notes.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, we'll share that with everybody. And Mary Agnes, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today.
Thank you, Giovanna. I'm really thrilled to, I don't know why you picked me as a friend, but thank you.
That's it for our show today. Remember, if you need support to live your Well Woman life, head over to wellwomanlife.com/Facebook to join us. Our monthly live event, Well Woman Drinks, brings women together to share our successes and challenges as women, leaders, moms, aunts, sisters, and all the other roles we carry. If you'd like to attend a Well Woman Drinks near you, or if there isn't one in your city yet and you'd like to start one, email info@wellwomanlife.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and subscribe in iTunes and leave a review. This helps raise visibility, which is super helpful when it comes to producing the show every week. For feedback, comments, or just to let me know you were listening today, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @WellWomanLife. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.